The funny thing about our science, our present level of concrete comprehension, is that it gives us understanding on cosmic scale structures and parameters of time that exponentially exceed anything we can personally experience in the span of even our longest lifetimes. So basically, what our advanced intellect, what our philosophical, scientific method, egocentric minds can finally fathom that lower beings cannot is our own insignificance. This is why I had to not call it a comedy anymore. I think it's hilarious. Anyway, this is comedy. Our general approach to science is often devoid of any consideration of spirituality or how the ancients approached energy. Often we assume that they must have been lesser minds as they are no longer here, and we are. Not the case. The destructive force of ignorance simply overshadowed them. The one thing that becomes more clear the more we learn is that how little any one of our individual lives means in the grand scheme of things. But as a collective, we can be a plague or an asset. We can squeeze this planet for all it's worth and serve ourselves while we all watch it burn, or we can find balance and respect for the world that sustains us. Our predecessors understood this and engaged with gratitude and reverence in their relationships with Earth and the greater cosmos, but we showed them. Still, let's see what our modern science offers in this conversation. You'll find everything we've already discussed upheld by universally accepted and embraced scientific principles. We've already discussed electromagnetism. Largely, you'll find that most of this is just intros for what the mystics are spinning anyway. But here we go. Gravity! Newton's law of universal gravitation states that every particle attracts every other particle in the universe with force directly proportionate to the product of masses and inversely proportionate to the square of the distance between them. What does that mean? Anyway, simply, that is to say, everything in the universe is constantly pulling on everything else based on its mass and distance. Everything is pushing and pulling on everything, which creates this energy network that we are all existing in. The scientific community now, Einstein's theory of relativity has superseded Newton's principle, but they're both describing the same phenomenon from different perspectives. Who would do that? Conservation of matter and energy. In all physical and chemical, alchemical exchanges, there is no loss. All matter and energy are conserved, though transmuted in the process into different physical or energetic forms. In the case of the human body, that inherently means that the consciousness is not lost in separation from the physical form. It simply exists in a different form. More talk of death soon after more science. Radial coherence. This one's a tricky one. We'll get there together. This is a little-known principle in mathematics and quantum mechanics with an immense power in proper application. Simply put, every point relates is in energetic alignment with both the whole and the center. This will make more sense in the extrapolated understanding the mystics hold, but it's just noteworthy here. Put that in your pocket. Fractals! Any of you public school kids know what a fractal is? In quantum mechanics, fractals are mathematical patterns exhibiting self-similarity at different scales, which is to say, these structures that branch out, their branches exist as exact replicas of the whole form, with even smaller replicas of the whole form branching off of them, so forth onto quantum eternity. Think snowflakes. Think as above, so below. Think half of the shit I've said on the stage so far. Quick tour of our bodies according to medicine. Let's examine what science and medicine know about these little flesh mechs we're all walking around in. Now, the skeletal system is the body's framework of bones, joints, and cartilage that provides support, protection, and a means for movement. It includes the axial skeleton, which is our skull, spine, and rib cage, and the appendicular skeleton, our arms, legs, and pelvis. It performs vital functions like storing minerals, producing blood cells, and protecting organs. Bones are living tissues that are constantly remodeled, like our flesh. All wonderful things. Laid over that is our muscular system, which includes all of our muscles, the organs, and that contract to produce movement. The myofascial system is a broader term that includes the muscles and the surrounding connective tissue as fascia, tendons, and aponeuroses, which link and support the muscle in three-dimensional webs, stick, right? This support network generally operates on balance of compression and tension. Now, there's our lymphatic system, sewn into all this webbing, an important part of our body's immune system. It plays an important role on maintaining healthy fluid levels in the body, removing cellular debris and harmful substances from the tissues, and helping the body absorb certain fats and other good stuff like that. Then there is the wiring that animates this whole thirst trap. Our nervous system, our body's control and communication network, consisting of the central nervous system of our brains and spinal cord, as well as the peripheral nervous system, all those little nerve bits that branch out through the rest of our bodies. Damn, girl. The circuitry for the brain to the body crosses the midline at the base of the brain in the medulla oblongata. I've always wanted to say that on stage for some reason. So, we know that this right chunk of flesh controls this bigger chunk of flesh over here, and vice versa. Now, let's talk about a part of our bodies that most of us literally know nothing about. Our spinal fluid. This same fluid exists in the ejaculate of men and ebbs and flows with the cycles of the moon in women. Ah, the moon is pulling on us! Yes, it's our big electron. This fluid is essential for both creation and the simple function of our entire vessels. The pineal gland, let me get you some pointers here. The pineal gland is a pea-sized organ in the brain that produces melatonin, the hormone that regulates our sleep-wake cycles and influences sexual development, messes with our dreams and the way we perceive reality. The pineal gland releases melatonin directly into the cerebrospinal fluid, which then distributes it throughout the entire body. The pituitary gland is often called the master gland, just here, because it produces and releases hormones that regulate crucial body functions like growth, metabolism, reproduction, blood pressure, and responses to stress. Most of us know a thing or two about those. It also happens to rest right in front of our optic nerve. Isn't that neat? All these structures are surrounded by dura mater, which is basically the thickest fleshy thing that covers all of our brain and spinal cord and protects it. It is surrounded by dura mater and cerebrospinal fluid, which cushions it. Now, this fluid circulates down the front of our spinal cord, behind our lungs, and up our back ends through the brain again. Yes? Now, you know everything. You know everything there is to know. I'm just kidding. We're moving on. The caduceus, heavily featured in medicine and historical and mythological relevance. Two snakes swirling up a staff, topped with wings. Sick, right? Our study of health and medicine has been woefully long detached from the energetic underlay that is inherently entangled with this physical form, which is to say, doctors don't know shit about these snakes. Not a suggestion to distrust your doctor. You should always be open and honest with your healthcare providers. More caduceus is the thing to come. Science of manifestation. This is the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. His example is pertaining to attaining a new job, but the principles are broadly applicable. Thoughts and ideas exist and attract within certain frequencies. Frequencies are set by our emotional state. Emotions are energy in motion. If you maintain a high vibrational emotional state, love, gratitude, compassion, patience, understanding, joy, you will attract the highest vibrational solution as well as opportunities and support from the external world to empower you to realize whatever it is you're creating. However, if you are constantly vibrating at lower frequencies of fear, scarcity, inadequacy, judgment, anxiety, or insecurity of any kind, you are attracting the thoughts and offerings from the world to create that experience for you. This is science catching up to some of the mystical understanding of these principles. There's a larger and larger community of science beginning to devote resources to phenomena in humans engaging with these practices. This is seen in our developing understanding of neuroplasticity, which is basically neurological rewiring, as well as studies on our brain waves, beta, alpha, theta, gamma frequencies emitted in different states of agitation or focused mindfulness work. Most of us live almost exclusively in the beta state, high or low, which is essentially survival mode, guys. Dimensions. Yeah. I saw time as a line and then as a plane until it became a blanket, I could wrap myself in. Wild, right? It's from a show, sci-fi show. It's really awesome. It's called Foundation. Sick sci-fi. We think of time as strictly linear, but as simple as the marching of the second hand is, our experience of time is in no way linear. It speeds up in moments of joy, play, and elation, just as it slows down in periods of boredom, grief, or fear. This very moment may, in fact, feel like an eternity for some of you. Time is simply a snapshot of the evolution of change. Time, matter, and distance are all different factors or dimensions we use to gauge our physical reality. They are reliant and dependent on one another to track reality and its ever-changing expressions. You cannot process physical reality without each of these being defined: time, distance, matter. 3D. We are able to move in 4D, which accounts for all of these, as well as our emotional input and output. And then there's 5D, which accounts for all of these lower four factors and acknowledges the natural entanglement of the inherent oneness of creation expressing itself. This requires a scope of experience outside yourself, outside your mind, your ego, your character. And all of those things are always wary of anything outside of themselves. Now, our modern science didn't just arrive magically in the 20th century. It is the incremental understanding built on foundations of the ancients and what they discovered and developed and demonstrated in their contributions. We got chemistry from the Egyptians, the land of Chem! Who were masters of alchemy? Our modern science has said, yeah, we'll take the namesake for chemistry, but you can keep all that woo-woo nonsense about higher dimensions and purpose and stuff. Simply put, we don't have our science without all of those who came before us. So let's at least see what that science might have tossed aside in its present consideration. What do the mystics say about it?